Love has a way of finding its voice. Even when it has been quiet for a while, even when circumstances have kept it contained in the interior of someone's experience rather than expressed in the space between you, even when the person carrying it has had every reason to keep it inside, to protect themselves from the vulnerability of speaking it, to wait for a moment that felt safer or more certain or more guaranteed to produce the outcome they hoped for. Love finds its voice eventually. It always does. Because the alternative, carrying something this real in permanent silence, becomes its own kind of cost. A cost that compounds over time until the weight of the not saying exceeds the risk of the saying. Someone has reached that point with you right now, in this moment that this reading is finding you, whatever moment that is. And they want to talk. Let me speak to what I felt when I opened this energy for you today, because the quality of what came through immediately tells you something important about the nature of what is being described. It was warmth, immediate, encompassing, full warmth. Not the cautious warmth of someone who is uncertain about what they feel or whether what they feel is welcome. The specific, settled, I have made my peace with this warmth of someone who has sat with their own feelings long enough to no longer be frightened of them, who has moved through whatever the uncertainty was and arrived at a place of genuine, quiet certainty. This person knows what they feel for you. They have known for a while. The knowing has not been the source of the delay. What has been delayed is the expression of the knowing, and the expression is now ready. Alongside the warmth, I felt something else, a specific quality of urgency that was not anxious but purposeful. The urgency of someone who has decided that a particular conversation needs to happen and who is now in the process of arranging themselves to have it, who has moved from thinking about reaching out to actively preparing to reach out. The preparation is nearly complete. I want to describe this person's energy in detail because I feel it very clearly, and I think understanding who is carrying this love toward you matters to receiving it properly. This is someone who loves quietly, not because what they feel is quiet, the intensity of it is anything but because the expression of it has always been more interior than exterior, more demonstrated through presence and attention and the small, sustained acts of caring than through grand declarations or obvious performances of feeling. They are the person who remembers what you said in a conversation that happened months ago, who notices when something is slightly off with you before you have said a word about it, who has cataloged, without consciously deciding to, a detailed portrait of who you are that includes the small things, the specific qualities, the particular expressions of your personality that most people walk past without registering. They have been paying attention in the specific, dedicated, nothing about you is invisible to me way that genuine love pays attention. And all of that attention, all of that quiet, sustained, utterly sincere caring is what they want to bring into the open, to give words to make visible in a direct, clear, this is what I feel conversation that removes the ambiguity that has perhaps existed between you about where they stand. Spirit is showing me something very specific about what this person wants to say, and I want to receive this carefully. I am being shown a conversation that has been prepared, not in the scripted, rehearsed sense of someone performing a predetermined speech. In the genuine sense of someone who has spent real time thinking about what they want to communicate, who has asked themselves the honest questions about what they feel and what they want, and what they are hoping this conversation opens between you, who has moved from the raw, unorganized experience of the feeling into a clearer, more articulable version of it that they are now ready to offer. What they want to say begins with something simple, almost disarmingly simple given the weight of what is behind it. They want to say that you matter to them, not in the casual, everyone says this way, in the specific, detailed, this is what mattering to me actually looks like way, with examples, with the specific memories of specific moments that have stayed with them and that they want you to know have stayed with them. They want you to know the texture of how you have occupied their mind and their heart, not vaguely, specifically, because the specificity is what makes it real rather than simply well-intentioned. I want to speak to the love itself now, because this reading is a love tarot reading, and love is at the center of everything, and it deserves to be examined directly. What this person feels for you has depth to it, not the shallow depth of attraction or admiration or even strong like that sometimes gets labeled as love before it has had time to develop into something with real roots. This has roots, real ones, the kind that formed through genuine time spent in your orbit, genuine attention paid to who you actually are, genuine reckoning with what your presence in their life has meant and would continue to mean, and what its absence would feel like. They have reckoned with what your absence would feel like, and the reckoning has been instructive, because the imagining of your absence, the specific exercise of considering what their life would look like without you in it, in whatever form you currently occupy it, has produced in them a clarity that the imagining of your continued presence never quite produced in the same way. The absence, even imagined, even theoretical, is unacceptable to them. And that unacceptability is the specific, definitive, no more ambiguity moment that has brought them to the decision to finally speak. Does this resonate with something you have been sensing, Virgo? Has there been someone in your world whose energy has felt different recently, more present in some way, more oriented towards you, more carrying something that has not yet been fully spoken? Let me know in the comments. I want to know who this is bringing up for you. Let me speak to something about the timing of this conversation that I feel is significant and that I want to make sure you understand. This person reaching out now is not accidental in its timing. Something has aligned. A combination of their own internal readiness having reached completion and something in the external circumstances of their life having shifted enough to create the opening they have been waiting for. Neither of these alone would have produced this moment. Both of them together, the internal and the external converging, have created the specific conditions for this conversation to happen. I want to be clear about what the internal readiness means, because it is the more significant of the two. The internal readiness is not simply feeling ready in the hopeful, I want this, so I am going to do it sense. It is readiness in the deeper sense. The specific quality of someone who has done enough of their own processing to show up to this conversation with something real rather than something still forming, who has moved through whatever was unresolved in themselves sufficiently to be able to offer something genuine rather than something that is still in the process of becoming genuine. They are ready to have this conversation well. not perfectly, but genuinely with their full self, rather than with a version that is still figuring out what it feels or what it wants. That readiness is what makes this the right moment for the conversation, and the conversation is going to reflect it. Inhale with me, Virgo. I want to speak now to something about you specifically, about how you have been experiencing whatever this connection is in its current form, about what your side of this has looked like. There has been something sitting with you, a question, perhaps, or a sense of something unresolved that has occupied more of your interior landscape than you have always found comfortable to acknowledge. A connection that has not been fully defined, not been fully spoken into clarity, not been given the direct expression that would allow you to know with certainty where it stands and where it is going. That particular quality of undefined, of something real between you that has not yet found its full form, is exhausting to carry. Even when what is between you is genuinely good, even when the connection itself nourishes rather than depletes, the undefined quality, the not knowing exactly where this lands, creates its own low-level drain that has probably been present in the background of your days without always being fully conscious. What this conversation is going to do, what it is coming specifically to do, is end that drain by making visible what has been real but unspoken, by giving language to what has been existing in the space between you without adequate words, by allowing both of you to operate from a place of knowing rather than a place of wondering. That shift from wondering to knowing, even when the knowing requires the vulnerability of a real conversation to arrive at, is a relief, and the relief is coming. I want to speak to something that Spirit is showing me about what happens during the actual conversation, because I feel the quality of it and I think it matters for you to know what to expect. This conversation is going to have a quality of ease to it that surprises you given the weight of what is being addressed. Not ease in the sense of nothing being at stake, in the sense of both people being genuinely present and genuinely honest and genuinely caring about each other's experience of the conversation. That specific combination, both people caring simultaneously, creates a different quality of interaction than most significant conversations have. There will be moments of vulnerability on both sides. Moments where something is said that reveals more than was perhaps planned, and that lands with a weight that requires a breath before the conversation continues. Those moments are not to be feared. They are the moments where the conversation becomes real rather than simply important, where you stop managing what is being exchanged and start genuinely exchanging it. Let those moments happen. Do not rush past them to get to something more comfortable. Sit in the vulnerability with this person, because the specific quality of what is being offered deserves that quality of receiving. Let me speak to what comes after the conversation, because the conversation is the beginning and I want you to have a sense of what it opens. Something is going to be clearer after this call than it has been before it. Something that has existed in the ambiguous, undefined space between you is going to have a name, a shape, a direction. And that clarity, once arrived at, creates a new baseline for everything that follows. The new baseline is better than the previous one, not because the previous one was bad in every sense, but because it had the specific limitation of the unspoken built into it. Every connection that carries significant unspoken things has its ceiling defined by the size of the unspoken. You can only go as deep together as what has been brought into the open allows. This conversation is bringing something into the open, and in doing so, it raises the ceiling. It creates space for the connection to go deeper than the unspoken has been allowing it to go, to become more fully itself than it has been able to be, while the most important thing was still being held in the interior rather than expressed in the shared space between you. What grows in that additional space is what this reading is ultimately about. A love that is finally free to be what it has always been in potential. That finally has the room to express itself without the constraint of the unspoken. That can now build on the foundation of genuine mutual honesty rather than on the more limited foundation of everything except the most important things. I want to speak to something about receiving love, because this reading is ultimately about love coming toward you, and I think it is worth addressing what receiving love well actually looks like. Receiving love well does not mean immediately reciprocating it with equal or greater intensity. It does not mean performing openness you do not feel or manufacturing vulnerability because it seems like the right response. It does not mean abandoning your discernment at the door of a tender moment. Receiving love well means being genuinely present in the moment of receiving it, letting it actually land rather than immediately processing it through the filter of what it means or what is required in response. Feeling what you feel in real time rather than managing your feelings into something more composed or more strategic, and then responding from that genuine place, from what is actually true for you, from your own real feelings about this person and this connection and what you want and what you are ready for, not from what seems wisest or safest or most likely to produce a particular outcome. Your genuine response, whatever it is the right response because it is real. And real responses to real love are always more valuable than perfect responses to real love. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with the fullness of everything that came through today. Someone loves you, really loves you, with this specific, deep rooted, has had time to become itself quality of love that deserves to be received as the significant thing it is. And they want to tell you directly through the intimate, real-time, voices in real space medium of an actual conversation. That conversation is coming. In the near term, with the quality of something that has been prepared rather than impulsive, that arrives with genuine intention and genuine readiness, that is designed not just to express what they feel, but to open something between you that has not been fully open until now. When it arrives, be present, be honest, be the specific, real, extraordinary version of yourself that this person has been loving this whole time, not a performance of yourself, not the managed version, the actual one, because the actual version of you is what generated this love, and it is what this conversation is coming to honor. You are loved, Virgo, deeply, specifically, with full awareness of who you actually are, and someone is ready to say that to you directly. Receive it with open hands, with an open heart, with the full, genuine, completely you presence that makes receiving love something real rather than something simply happening to you. It is on its way. If this reading touched something real in you today, please share it with a Virgo who needs to feel this energy, and leave me a comment below. Tell me how this landed. Tell me who came to mind. Tell me what it feels like to know that someone loves you enough to want to say it directly. I read every single word you share, Every story matters to me deeply, and I carry your energy with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo. Love is finding its voice, and it is calling your name.